Hello all, this is the Owl, and, well, here we go. See, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get this out before Mrs. Owl popped sprogs as she's starting to show signs, but it looks like we still might be okay. So yes, this is a slightly shorter video for that exact reason. Now, where were we? Oh right, the recap. Over the past few PTSD Radio volumes, we learned a bit about the enigmatic and sinister god of hair, an ancient, insanely powerful, and possibly Ainu deity, who it appears was once really benevolent, but over time became vicious, twisted, and corrupted after villagers began to use her idol for black magic, and eventually the village turned on it and stopped worshipping it. Our, well, I won't say protagonists, it's not that kind of story, Chifuyu and Keita, appear to have encountered Ogushi-sama when they were very young, and its influence followed them later in life, causing all sorts of spoopiness to happen. Today, we'll finish off the story parts of PTSD Radio, what there is of it, and next time, I guess when I return, we'll talk about the creepypasta side of it, and also try and put the story together. Or maybe I'll split that into 2 videos. We'll see how it looks once I start writing the script for those, I guess. With that, let's make this a good one. Right, our first vignette proper involves a salaryman who has a permanently haunted apartment, or at least perennially haunted. But this is a pretty brave chap. Nah, not me, mate. I'd have found a new apartment in frigging Yamagata or something the first time I saw that thing. But he's pretty damn brave, so all he does when he sees the, yeah, that's a pretty horrible shape, is close the door, wait a second, then open it again, and there we go, all gone. So this went on for a while. He'd come home, see the ghost in its usual spot, close the door, wait a second. Yeah, that's a classic. And speaking of classics, the next one might just be my absolute favourite Nakayama vignette, or at least tied for favourite, and definitely my favourite part of PTSD. Now, for this one to make sense, you need to understand a little bit about Japanese mythology. See, there's a yokai, and yes, there's a word that does not translate well. The best I can do is supernatural, mythological, Asian creature, I don't know. These appear a fair bit in traditional Japanese campfire stories or kaidan, which Nakayama is a huge fan of. Yokai are sort of their own thing, and there really isn't an analogous phenomenon in the West. The closest you're going to get is probably cryptids, but imagine if cryptids were stuff like dragons and griffins, and were also evil spirits. And in this case, we're dealing with a yokai called a rokuro kubi, basically a woman with an absurdly long flexible neck. You've probably seen this image all over the place. I know Gantz and Naruto immediately come to mind. So, the story. I think that this might be Keita, although I'm not sure. He's walking home one night and sees what he thinks must be a rokuro kubi just standing, facing a specific spot on a wall, although it might be a window. he definitely gets a bit of a fright, but over time, he sees the Rokurokubi more and more and just gets used to her. Sure enough, he then gradually becomes curious as to what she looks like from the front. Which, yeah, depending on which media you're talking about, Rokurokubi can be quite spooky looking or they can be quite beautiful. Especially if you're a neck man. Wait, that's a thing, right? Yeah, it's a thing. Anywho, Keita tried everything he could think of to get the Rokurokubi to turn around, but nothing worked. She remained fixated on whatever she was looking at through the window. So, eventually he got annoyed and grabbed her shoulder, too late realizing that something was very, very wrong here. Then, she did indeed turn around, and we don't see it. It's left entirely up to our imaginations what she... Nope! That is terrifying! It's not a Rokurokubi. What exactly this thing is, I have no idea, but it has a horribly distorted and elongated face. Damn it, I love this design. We also get the stinger that the long face lady now comes to stare at Keita every night. That is balls creepy. It actually reminds me of another of my favorite scares, the Mr. Smiley scare in The Haunting of Hill House, as it also plays with your expectations regarding what the inevitable jump scare creature is going to look like, and takes you unawares by making the creature just oh so much scarier than we were led to believe. Again, it's definitely my favorite Nakayama thing, or at least tied with an epilogue. As Mrs. Owl will attest, one of the original ideas for this channel was the two of us making short horror movies, and we actually planned to do an adaptation of both. I have to call this one Why the Long Face, because why not, and an epilogue, because yeah, they're just spooky dope. We then dive headlong into the next one, which, yeah, I think that's Chifuyu, and we get another possible hint of what's actually going on, and maybe a taste of what the end of this story would have looked like if Nakayama and his team hadn't abandoned ship. The damaged idol of Oguchi-sama seems to be communicating with Chifuyu somehow, and I think had the manga actually concluded, we would have seen Chifuyu and Keita going to repair the idol. We then get a few more disconnected vignettes, including one with this handsome fellow. It's not especially scary or creative, but I have to say that's another great design. And another vignette that probably refers to the prostitute ghost lady, but I'm honestly not sure. Then, the final quarter of Volume 4 is the first part of the creepypasta thing, which again I'm not going into today. Let's just say Nakayama talks about his own experiences writing this manga, and how it started to seemingly cause weird, spooky, and occasionally outright horrific things to happen to him and his team. But we'll talk more about that next time. It's really fascinating, pretty damn scary, and let's just say on the very edge of being completely unbelievable. But again, that's for next time. We'll take a look at Volume 6, and then we'll call it a day. But before that, let's take a short break.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Volume 6, the final volume of PTSD Radio, jumps right into it with a character writing at home who, tired, decides to catch his breath, leans back and, are those hands? Meh. Suddenly something grabs his head from under the bed and it's that thing. The upside down face boy. I don't know what it's doing here, but it actually pops up in a few vignettes. And oh yeah, the next one is interesting too. An office worker talks about how she sometimes sees a happy family eating dinner together when she walks home at night. However, upstairs, just above them, that's actually a really cool panel. I actually rather like this entire sequence in terms of how it's put together. Regardless, yeah, the office worker wants to tell them, but whenever she's about to, she realizes that the thing is looking right at her. Yeah, just move along, lady. I don't think you want any piece of whatever's happening here. Now, this next bit is also... We'll get into it maybe in the next video, but we get some more waffling about the original town that Oguchi-sama's from, and how they were all kind of dicks. Something something soul stealing, something something filial slavery in the manner of those prolapsed urethras from Naruto. But again, we'll see if we can't untangle that mess in the final video. There's also this bit with a supernatural guardian dog, which might be a reference to Komainu, which are supernatural dogs that protect a specific family or a specific location from evil spirits. Although it might be a reference to Chuken Hachiko, an actual thing that happened in Akita, which, to the other South Africans in the audience, it's basically the Japanese version of Jock of the Bushveldt, and to everyone else, well, let's just say Fry's dog and leave it at that. Famous story in Japan, very sad, and you'll see references to Hachiko all over the place in manga and anime. Anyways, that's a long-ass story that I don't think fits anywhere into the actual PTSD Radio or Gushi-sama narrative, and it has such a different tone that it's like splicing a bit of a Goofy movie into the middle of Hostel. Regardless, things continue in pretty much the same vein. Ghost prostitute who likes to grab onto people's backs, although maybe this is a preamble to that other story from earlier, which would imply... Nope, no bloody idea. Anywho, this is sort of where things get weird, as the between chapter bits get less and less coherent, eventually turning into little more than gibberish, then word fragments, and eventually just static and silence. We do get a bit more backstory, but nothing all that interesting, and suddenly it all ends. Huh? Yeah. Now, we will go into this in the next video. But I guess this is the payoff of the whole creepypasta thing. Depending on how you want to take it, it could just be Nakayama writing himself into a corner, having no bloody idea where to take things, and thus concocting an elaborate story to give him an escape hatch. Or maybe he did actually believe that this was a cursed manga that, yeah, again, we will get more into this in the next video. Or who knows, maybe it was actually cursed. Anyway, I guess that's where we'll have to... Sorry, I couldn't resist. But yeah, that is the end of PTSD Radio. There's a continued in Volume 7 label, but this is followed by a later added segment where Nakayama explains why there will never ever be a Volume 7. And that is where we are going to end it today. As I said way back at the start, I have not even covered half the stories in this manga because A, this series is already long, and B, I really want to encourage all of you fantastic folks to go and check it out for yourselves, because holy crap, this is good. The hand-drawn art is something else, man. And it's one of the few actually scary things I have read in a very long time. Now, this won't be the last the world would see of Nakayama's horrific genius. There is a new Fuan no Tane series, which I'm still trying to track down, and I have heard amazing things about. Namely, it's even scarier than PTSD Radio. And who knows, if there's enough interest, we can take a look at that in the future. Let me know in the comments. For now though, let's call it here. Before we finish for the day, I want to say a huge thanks, as always, to my fantastic patrons. Asterix Gaming, Cheerful Satanist, Starwin Marwin, High Lord J, Jacob Ramsey, Crazy, James Bakes Bread. What, did you get tired of making jam? Wargle, Kelcor, Lance Goebel, Paul Nolberger, Piece of Yeast, Rafferty, Erin Arnold, The Hedgehog Gamer, Simone, and XTC Pill. If you want to see more like this, why not stick around? Subscribe, bell, you know the drill. If you want to hear me say your name, get early access to most of my videos, have some fun perks on the Discord, and, you know, help Mrs. Owl and I out or buy Baby Owl a present, and ensure that I can keep on doing what I do, why not take a look at our Patreon? All links, as always, are in the description. Take care, my friends, and cheers. This is the Owl, for probably the last time for a while, signing off.